The Olympic torch has arrived in Rio de Janeiro ahead of the start of the Games on Friday, but not everyone is celebrating. Several demonstrations have been held in protest against the high cost of the Games. Brazil has spent $12 billion, while the country is struggling with its worst economic crisis in a generation, as well as political turmoil. Well, joining us live from Rio de Janeiro is Anelise Borges. Anelise, there was a huge protest when the torch arrived, probably not what the organisers had hoped for. What's the mood like today in the city?
Well, the atmosphere is mixed, really. While there are many people here in Rio de Janeiro that are very excited to have such a big event held at their doorstep, and they're very proud of their city for having delivered everything in time, others are indeed angry, and they believe the Olympic Games are a waste of time and money, and that the $12 billion that the city has reportedly spent on hosting the event should have been invested in other areas such as healthcare, education, public transport, for example. Some of these people were indeed protesting during that ceremony of the arrival of the Olympic torch here in Rio de Janeiro. The situation was quite tense. There was a confrontation between protesters and police. Police had to use tear gas and pepper spray. And that is exactly what the organizers had been fearing. They had hoped that by now this animosity, this malaise would have been dropped, put aside, so that people could focus on the sport, on such a historic moment, a historic event for Rio de Janeiro. But that is not exactly the case. And according to the local organizing committee, at least 1 million tickets remain unsold.
Now, the opening of the Games is on Friday, but in the run-up to that, there have been many problems, such as the Zika outbreak, the delays. Is everything sorted now? Is Rio ready?
Well, in theory, yes, the facilities, the sports, the arenas, the stadiums are ready and operating. The new Metro Line 4 that connects this touristy district here in the South Zone to the Olympic Park in the West has been delivered, although very last minute, that must be said. But that is also operating. That will transport athletes and sports fans to the locations of the events. The athletes' accommodations, the Olympic Village, has also been fixed up. So in theory, everything is ready to go. And the Zika outbreak does not seem to be a concern right now. The weather is relatively cool and dry, and that does not represent conditions that are far favorable for the mosquito, the vector of the disease, to spread. So that does not seem to be a concern. But it's undeniable that this Olympic Games will go down on Brazil's history as an event marked by broken promises. And perhaps the most notorious one was the fact, of course, that the Rio Olympic bid included the project to clean the waters of Rio de Janeiro. And water pollution continues to be a very serious problem here in Rio. At least 50% of raw sewage go into the waters here every day. Authorities insist this does not represent a threat for athletes, that they will not get sick in contact with the water. That is, of course, as long as they keep their heads out of the water and their mouths closed.
Okay, Anelise Borges in Rio de Janeiro, thank you.